the primary thing and or person to keep you from your dreams or what you want to do is yourself.
Mm.
Because we are so bogged down by fear, we're bogged down by doubt, we're bogged down by imposter syndrome, and that
Yes.
keeps us from getting to where we want to be, right? And sometimes you really just have to take that leap of faith, and take that leap for yourself. It's essentially you investing in yourself and not you not being fearful to do so. So you're right. So for me, in coming into this industry, every time or every milestone was like a fear that I had to overcome, you know,
Mm.
whether
Mm-hmm.
it's the fear of moving to LA and leaving, my family behind in Boston, and my sister has cerebral palsy, I wanted to be able to be closer by so that I can help. So initially, I was going to move to New York. I was like, oh, okay, boom, I'm going to move to New York. I could do some writing in New York. And
Mm-hmm.
it's close enough to Boston where it's a drive away. I can get back home. And it was my mom that was like, if you need to move to LA and that's where the work is for what it is you want to do, move to LA.
This is The Nugget. We're inspiring change makers and dynamic individuals share their nuggets of wisdom to inspire our dreams. I'm your host, Kiesha Hudgens, and today I'm here with my lovely co-host,
Biancas.
and we're joined by one of Hollywood's rising leaders, Mike Gauyo. He's a TV writer on HBO's Insecure and Netflix Ginny and Georgia, as well as a producer and showrunner on All Blacks Send Help. We thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me. It's a great introduction.
Yes, gotta jazz it up. Honestly, I'm such a fan. I was looking forward to this because I am a bit of a TV and film junkie. So being able to talk to the writer of two of my favorite shows is a treat.
Yeah, I'm a TV junkie as well. But one thing I want to ask, I mean, just to kick us off, is what did you watch as a kid? Because for me, I watched literally every single thing on TV, and I thought everyone was raised like that, and I was like preparing for a career in television. And then later, I found out that people weren't allowed to watch TV, or people were super strict. I watched every channel, everything that was on TV. So what was that like for you growing up?
That is a great question. And, first, thank you guys for having me. It's a pleasure to be here with you too. And that's a great question. I was watching, a lot of UPN. I grew up with UPN. So I was like watching a ton of like TGIF, type shows like Family Matters, grew up with that, grew up with Fresh Prince, grew up with the Wayans brothers, grew up with, Living Color, grew up with like a bunch of just, shows that were just steeped in just Black culture because that's what I gravitated to the most. But when I fell in love with language and was like, ooh, I like how they're talking here. I like the rhythm of speech here. There's something about it that's like drawing me closer to it. Were more so law shows like The Practice or The West Wing. I think Aaron Sorkin in The West Wing was what made me fall in love with the rhythm of writing and like the pace of writing and how that the pace goes when dialogue is happening.
What age is that? What age were you when that was happening?
This is after Haiti. Yeah,
Okay.
so I was born in Haiti, and then my family moved to the States when I was 4. So, I was, got most of my schooling in the States, of course, and we originally landed in Mattapan, Massachusetts. And for anyone who knows about Mattapan, it's a very dense Haitian population there. It's like the little Haiti of Boston, basically. And we lived in that area for 2 years, and then I moved to Quincy, Massachusetts, which was like primarily white. And I was like, I went from an all Black class of like ESL, Haitian students, and went to like an all white school where I was the only Black kid in the class. So like learning how to kind of like code switch very early without really knowing what code switching was at the time really helped inform me as a writer and really helped me hone in on just different behaviors of people, whether black, white, or anything in between. So yeah, I feel like my upbringing really helped um, evolve like who I became as a writer.
Are you enjoying the conversation? Please like and subscribe to our channel. Be sure to hit the bell for notifications and be the first to know when new episodes drop.
And I wonder, like with shows like West Wing, often when people immigrate to the United States, TV is one of the things that helps them socialize into American culture. So a lot of the Indian people I went to school with, they'd be like, oh, I learned English from Friends, or I watched this for like social cues because it's so different than the culture that you might be coming from. So was that the case with you?
That's a good question. I don't think so much for me, or at least I don't remember because I came so young. So my first kind of understanding of just American culture, what I'll say American culture, African American culture, white culture, because to me that's three different things.
Very much.
If we're really getting down to it. So for me, my first introduction to that really wasn't until I moved. So once I moved, I was like, oh, okay. And the funny thing is, I didn't find the most difference, or I wasn't shocked by the difference between, say, me and like a white person or white culture. I was more shocked by the difference of other Black people.
Like what?
I would go up to them speaking Haitian Creole, like, "Oh, we family."
Yeah.
Like we know each other,
right?
And them not understanding what I'm saying, So that's like my first time kind of understanding that we're not monolithic. We're not all from one place. We're not all from culture. There are many different subcultures that exist within our Blackness that we want to be able to explore. So,
was that a positive feeling, or?
At the time, it was like a confused feeling, but now I understand the importance of it, but not just the importance of being able to express it and recognize it, but the importance of seeing it on TV.
And it's so important that we do, because I can vouch for that thing, that same thing. I feel like growing up in Syracuse, New York, I did not. I always say this to people. It was a culture shock moving to New York City, because like both in New York, very different experiences. I really was not familiar with. I've never met a Haitian person, or maybe if I did, I didn't know they were Haitian, or even like many Caribbean peoples, until I got to New York. And I was like, wait a minute, everybody not African American? Like they're just not Black. Like it's just this weird. Or my first experience with a dark skinned Dominican person was very, I was like, oh, wait a minute, why is she
speaking? Coming on shade?
Yeah, I was like, and I felt, and that was in college. That's sad, but it was in college when I discovered this. So it's, to your point, it's just like, you really don't know these things until you're thrown into the midst of it.
Yeah.
Oh, I wanted to take it back a little bit too, because you're open about your sexuality and being gay. You're very proud of who you are, which we love. What was that like growing up gay in a Haitian family?
Ooh. That was it was challenging. It was its own, experience. I'll say that yes, I'm a very proud gay Haitian immigrant. Living in the United States, very proud. I had to arrive at that place though. I didn't come out till I was like 25, and I didn't come out till I was 25. I didn't have my first sexual experience with a guy till after I was 25, and part of that was because I had so much respect for my family and for my parents, and not to say that folks who wait that long aren't respectful. I guess what I mean to say is I had a very close connection to my family. To the point where I wouldn't want to hurt them in any way, or I wouldn't want to bring any like shame or disrespect to them, And at that time, I was really trying to figure out like who I was, who I wanted to be. I knew that I was gay, but I didn't necessarily want to entertain those feelings. And it really got to a point where, I was realizing this is who I am. This is how I was born. I can't really run from this after trying to run from it for however long, and really getting to a point where like, oh, I need to live for myself. And sentiment or that idea didn't come till after the earthquake in Haiti. So my parents were there at the time. My parents and my sister were in Haiti at the time during the earthquake because they owned a business there. And they would always bring my sister with them when they traveled because she has cerebral palsy. She doesn't walk or talk, so she always travels.
How many siblings do you have?
I have 3 siblings. I have a younger brother, a younger sister. She has cerebral palsy, and I have an older sister who's a year older than me who lives in New York, who has 3 amazing kids, 3 amazing nephews of mine. Yeah, they live in Brooklyn. You guys are in Brooklyn, right?
I'm in Harlem, and
that's you're in Harlem, okay.
And I'm in Jersey, but you know.
Okay, bet. Okay,
I used to live in Brooklyn. We know the Brooklyn love over there. We got Brooklyn.
Yeah, she lives in Brooklyn. But yeah, I have 3 siblings, and they're all amazing. But yeah, my parents were in Haiti during the earthquake. We couldn't reach them for 3 days. We thought the worst had happened. At the time, my younger brother was with me in the States, and he's 12 years younger than I am. So at the time, he was like maybe 11, 12, and I was like in my early 20s. So I'm thinking, wow, I'm going to have to raise him by myself. I was thinking like all the, the worst things. Fortunately, my parents were fine. They were found. They came back to the States in those like military like cargo planes. Like it was a whole situation. But they got back safely. But at that time, I had a huge aha moment of, wow, okay, I'm not happy. I'm not living for myself. I almost lost my parents and my sister in this tragedy. I need to arrive at a place where I'm living for myself. I am taking care of myself and my needs because life is so short, right? So in that same year, I ended up going back to school. Got my degree in theater and creative writing, moved to LA to pursue TV, also came out to my parents. So it was a big time, but also caused a huge shift in my life for the better, and brought me closer to me and who I am. So yeah,
I love that story. I want to talk, and we talked about it, pre-show a bit about you moving to LA, because when I moved, I always knew I wanted to live in New York. Like I grew up between Atlanta and California. And when I got to New York, it was like I came with one suitcase, but I was like, I'll never leave. Like I knew I had seen it in my dreams. I know you said for you, LA has been home for 10 years. It's the same next year. I'll have been a New Yorker for 10 years, which is most of my life. So what's that like? And who were you when you stepped in LA versus who you are now?
Oh man, that last part is a huge.
Set us up. What's the before and the after like?
And that before and after, yeah, a few dollars, a few dollars. No, but so when I moved to LA 10 years ago, I moved with a couple of friends of mine, right? The 3 of us were like, I was the writer, the 2 of them were actors, and we were like, okay, we're gonna go out there, we're gonna make it, we're gonna do our thing. And the fortunate thing was, while I was in Boston, I just graduated college and I was working as a production assistant in Boston. Like I did the Equalizer movie as a production assistant. American Idol was coming and doing their
Equalizer with Denzel?
Yeah. Yes. Yeah,
I'm a Denzel fan.
Yeah, you can't just bypass that.
Yeah, you can't just give it with Black women.
I mean, I never met him. I never met him. I never even saw him. I was like one of those production assistants that was working in an office and that would do runs to set every now and then. And I'd be like, when I get to set, I'd be like, who in here? Like who's over here? And I would never run into him. But yeah, I was working as a production assistant in Boston. And American Idol came to Boston to do their, Boston auditions. And I just ended up working for them as a PA for 2 days. But I mentioned, hey, I'm moving to LA in a month. So, let me know if you need me or anything. And they were like, oh, as soon as you move, come work with us. So as soon as I moved to LA, I had a job. Like I was working at American Idol from September to May. And then American Idol and So You Think You Can Dance shared the same production company. So I would work So You Think You Can Dance from May to September, and then it would cycle back again to American Idol. So I always had a job. And I ended up doing reality TV for 3 years. But the issue with that is I was thankful to go from a production assistant to like a supervising producer in reality TV, but I wasn't writing. In that time, like I was making money, I was like just making a living. You know how you just start, you just gotta make money to pay the bills. So that's what I was doing. And I wasn't doing a lot of writing. I wasn't really getting into getting networking and scripted TV. One thing I came to find out is that the scripted TV network and the reality TV network is not really the same. They don't really meet. So you really have to take yourself out of that space and network with scripted people, with people that are in scripted TV. So I took a step back from reality. I stopped taking reality jobs. I got a part-time job at a gym. And then I used the income that I had made in reality to supplement my gym income, and then so I can write full-time.
Do you have an audio podcast? Are you looking to grow your audience? Partner with Prosper Digital TV, a virtual and full-service video production company. Visit www.prosperdigital.tv or call 718-622-0062 to get started today.
And in that time, I met Issa, and she gave me my first writing opportunity on the scripted podcast she was doing called Fruit. And we ended up doing 2 seasons of Fruit. But before I feel like I'm getting sidetracked now, but LA became home to me as soon as I landed, because I felt like it had taken me so long to find like my thing, that thing that I'm like, oh, this is exactly what I want to do. So the moment I found it, I just latched onto it.
What age was this?
I was 28.
Okay.
So let me give you like a brief background of just the journey to becoming a writer. I was pre-med in college.
Oh,
wow.
Like
what a change.
My parents were grooming me to become a doctor. Like from a young age, all I heard is, you're gonna be a doctor. You're gonna be a doctor. No other option. That's all you're gonna do. So for me, I grew up like, oh, I'm gonna be a doctor. There it is. So I get to college and I'm pre-med and I'm like, this is not it. Like this is not what I want to do. I'm like taking organic chemistry and doing all this. I'm like, this ain't it. Like I don't want to be doing this. And I wasn't quite sure exactly what else I wanted to be doing, or at least I didn't have the courage to pursue it. And like I said, it wasn't until after the earthquake that I had the courage to go back to school, because at that point I had left school and went to pursue, just got a job because I couldn't afford school anymore. So I had left school and was really at a place of just trying to figure out what it is I wanted to do, and not trying to feed into the fear of what I shouldn't be doing. So I knew that I grew up writing. I knew that I enjoyed writing. I just didn't know how to get there. I didn't know what the path was to like be doing that.
Yeah.
So I had to go back to school. I went back to school, got my degree in theater with a concentration in creative writing, graduated when I was 26, worked production assistant jobs at 26, 27, and then moved to LA at like 28.
Wow.
So it was like later for me that I really kind of like discovered what it is I wanted to do. So that's what I mean when I say, when the moment I landed in LA, I knew this is exactly what I wanted to do.
You were like, I arrived. I have arrived.
I have
like
arrived.
I'm here.
This is my career. This is what I want. And as soon as I knew that, I was like laser focused on getting what I wanted.
That doesn't shock me at all, because I had a conversation with an artist that I mentor yesterday, and I told him, I said, the hardest thing about becoming an artist is admitting to yourself that you are one. Because I feel like a lot of people, I said, I wasted so much time. Like when I was in college, I was like in this journalism track, but I knew I really just wanted to do TV, like talk television. But it was me being like, no, but that's not like a real thing that people do. And I think it's like, what's that internal conversation of being like, no, like really you can do it. And I think the fact that you have been so successful, and it seems like it's very rare that you hop into LA or in New York and you get a job and you keep a job consistently in your industry. So even if it wasn't in scripted television, I think that speaks to just the fact of like what that self-admission can kind of do. And if you want to speak to that, like that internal dialogue, because there's a lot of doubt and it is a risk. It's not like doctor, accountant, or lawyer?
The primary thing and or person to keep you from your dreams and what you want to do is yourself. Because we are so bogged down by fear, we're bogged down by doubt, we're bogged down by imposter syndrome, and that keeps us from getting to where we want to be, right? And sometimes you really just have to take that leap of faith, and take that leap for yourself. It's essentially you investing in yourself and not being fearful to do so. So you're right. So for me, in coming into this industry, every time or every milestone was like a fear that I had to overcome, whether it's fear of moving to LA and leaving, my family behind in Boston, and my sister has cerebral palsy, I wanted to be able to be closer by so that I can help. So initially, I was going to move to New York. I was like, oh, okay, boom, I'm going to move to New York. I could do some writing in New York. And it's close enough to Boston where it's a drive away. I can get back home. And it was my mom that was like, if you need to move to LA and that's where the work is for what it is you want to do, move to LA. So it's a blessing that I actually moved. Wow. But what I'm trying to say is that fear that you have that keeps you from doing something because of the excuse of, oh, I need to be closer to family, or like, oh, I don't know if that's the right thing for me to do. It's like that fear, you have to overcome it, because on the other side is that thing that you want.
Absolutely. And for me, I know first, I kind of have a similar story. I was in a whole different career path. And then at 25, I was like, no, I want to be an entertainment host. And that from there, I kind of just did what I had to do. But one of the things I discovered in my journey was relationships. They're so important, especially in this industry, no matter if you are on the TV and writing side or producer, actor, or even a host, great relationships. We know that they will get you to the next step, right? So you mentioned you met Issa, and we all know Issa now, but we didn't know the Issa then. Just like you, she was up and coming. She was trying to find her way. How important was that relationship so early on in your life, like developing that relationship with Issa that led you to what we'll talk about soon, which was the Insecure, or, those things?
That is a great question. And what I'll say too is, before Insecure, there was Awkward Black Girl. And that was like my show. Do you know what I mean? So I knew Issa. Like I was like, okay, listen. And Issa was out in LA doing stuff already. Like she was like developing shows, or she had shows that were bought, or so she was already out here like doing her thing. Just Insecure hadn't happened yet. So for me, like Issa was like, oh my God, that's Awkward Black Girl. Like I would love to meet her. So what I did was, the beginning of 2015, I did a vision board. So I turned my desk into a vision board. So I just like plastered like a bunch of like magazine cutouts, completely covered my desk, and put like this plastic, or this kind of like overlay on top to preserve it. But anyway, Issa was on my vision board. And maybe less than a month after that, she had put out a blast on her Instagram, promoting this mixer that she was having at her production company. And in order to get into the mixer, you had to submit material, like whether it was like a short or a clip of something you did, like something that you created. And I submitted like a sketch that I had written, and that got me into the mixer. So there were about 30 of us in the mixer. I got to talk to her for all of 2 minutes. She had so many people to speak to. But I remember I made her laugh in those 2 minutes. So I'm like, okay, cool. Maybe she'll remember me because I made her laugh. But yeah, met her for 2 minutes during that mixer that she had. And then maybe a couple of months after that, she emailed a bunch of us writers saying, hey, I'm going to be putting together this equal pay for equal work campaign for Women's Rights Month. And I was like, oh, that's really cool. So I submitted like my material to be in this mini room for this mini movie she was doing. And she didn't end up selecting me. So I was like, okay, cool, bet. No problem. That's okay. But I emailed them back and I said, hey, once you guys are ready to shoot this, I'll PA for free. Like, I just want to learn. I just want to experience and like figure things out and like see how you guys put this together. And thankfully they emailed me back like, sure, yeah, come help out. So January I made the vision board. February the mixer happened. I want to say by May the short film was being shot. So I was PAing for her for the day. I was just PAing for the day, not expecting to get paid. I got a chance to talk to her a little more and just let her know like how much I enjoyed her work and how much I enjoyed, Awkward Black Girl. And I was going to go to Austin Film Festival later that year because I had a project that made it to the second round. So I was like, okay, let me go experience Austin. And I knew that she was going to be in Austin too, doing a panel. So I told her, hey, like, we're both going to be in Austin. Like, should we carpool? Like, what's good? She said no to that. But
you better swindle your way in there. I love it.
I love what you're doing. No, but she was just so great. And I remember tweeting at her before Austin saying, hey, we should get drinks when you get here. And she tweeted back at me like, yeah, let's do it. So like I say all this to say the relationship was built over time, and it was built over just following up and just trying to create a genuine relationship with someone that I admired, but not in a way that was like, I'm stalking you. Like, do you know what I mean? So by the time we met in Austin, I want to say it was late October, early November, and we ended up having drinks, and I told her, you need an assistant. Like, what do you need? Because they had just announced Insecure going to series. And I was what do you need? Like, I'm here. But she had already staffed her room. Like, they were already gearing up to get started. So I was like, okay, cool, no problem. But she ended up emailing me a week later and said, hey, I have this project called Fruit. Would you like to come in and meet for this project? Maybe it could be the right fit for you. And I met her for Fruit, and she ended up hiring me to be one of the writers.
Are you enjoying the conversation? Please like and subscribe to our channel. Be sure to hit the bell for notifications and be the first to know when new episodes drop.
That's how our relationship started, and thankfully we've been cool ever since. She's just amazing. Issa is the best person.
Let me interject in this. I love this story because I think it dispels a very popular myth from outsiders looking into entertainment, which is that someone holds the key to their future. Like, everyone's waiting for that Naomi Campbell moment where they get discovered at the mall and someone looks at them and says, that's a model. And I think as when people look at the outside and a very like high level view of your career, they could be like, oh, Mike, like that's one of Issa's people, or like people see these kind of careers in Hollywood and they say, oh, someone made them or they gave them Insecure. This story shows that actually it's a very long drawn out process. It's almost like much less sensational. It's more just like, oh, you're building a relationship, you're building rapport. And it sounds like the whole time, the real key that I hear is that you were writing like the whole time, which I think people, they're like, oh, I'm not going to take a photograph until I take a photograph of a celebrity, or I'm not going to write until I'm in a writer's room. It's like you had your own work and your own life.
No, absolutely. My thing is this, right? It's all important. The networking is important.
Very.
The writing is important. The work ethic is very important. It takes all of those things, like a great storm of things happening, if you will, in order to get to where it is you want to be. So Issa's very supportive and lifts people up to stand beside her or even propel them past her, in the sense of like, she is going to give people an opportunity to succeed. You really just have to put yourself in a place where you are able to be of service, and you're ready. Once she asks for material, you have to have it ready. Like, what are you giving her? What are you giving anyone that's asking you for material, that's trying to help you out, and then you don't have it? So focus so much on just networking and then not having the material. It's all important. You have to.
Now, I think it's so important. Like we hear about these. I think it was a good point for you to say that you were doing the work along the way. You're not. Hey, like she said, Bianca. To Bianca's point, it's like I'm not just out here taking pictures with people and act like I want to be known, because which a lot of people in LA do. Everybody like to be attached to somebody, right? So we love that you were actually doing the work. So I want to get to the writing. Like you were writing, so we know you were offered Insecure, right? You offered season 1, but then you did Ginny and Georgia. Am I correct or am I wrong?
No. Here's what happened. I ended up going to write on the Fruit podcast.
Yeah. Okay.
And ended up writing on this mini web series called the BSU, like that was still within like the Issa Rae Presents family. So I say that to say, I continued to build my, relationship and friendship with Issa over time while I was honing in my craft in scripted TV. So I was the writer's assistant on Claws, which was on TNT.
Oh, I love Claws.
We love Claws.
I started with them season 1 and ended up leaving, I want to say, a quarter of the way through season 3 because I ended up getting staffed on Ginny and Georgia. So I was writing on Ginny and Georgia first before Insecure. So I staff job on Ginny and Georgia season 1, and then a great full circle moment. Ended up being invited to write on the final season of Insecure.
And appeared.
Yeah. The great thing about Insecure is all the writers get like a cameo. So I was very happy with my cameo. I was like, okay, there I am. Thank you. So that was great. But yeah, great full circle moment. I didn't end up writing on the show till the final season. And that speaks to just me continuing to learn, continuing to hone my craft, continuing to just work and not expecting anyone to just hand me anything. You know what I mean? You have to be able to work for it. I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
And the thing is, I was invited to write or hired to write on the show, but still having to work for that too. Like I met with Prentice Penny, the showrunner, had a showrunner meeting with him. And what was important for me was to come in prepared. Like I rewatched the show like 10 more times and was picking things out and like things that I wanted to explore in season 5 and like bringing my own ideas and pitches, because you want to be additive to something and you don't want to come in because you know someone on the show. You want to be able to come in because you deserve to be there, because you're a mind that is valued in the room, or a voice that's valued in the room. So I always try to step into every situation trying to be prepared. And that's the one piece of advice that I can give to anyone. It doesn't matter how much you know someone or how much you might think you know someone or what the relationship is. Always step into the room prepared.
I agree. And I think that Insecure is like you said, you jumped on season 5, which to me is one of the best seasons, courtesy of you. I wanted to, because I know we're going to start running out of time, but I wanted to really dive into Ginny and Georgia. To me, I call Ginny and Georgia a sleeper hit. Ginny and Georgia, people slept on season 1, baby, but I was there. 2021, I was there with it. Ginny and Georgia, I am Ginny and Georgia's my mama. My mom was a teen mom and questionable at times. So, as soon as I watched that show, I felt seen. I felt understood. I felt like, I remember sitting in a bed crying, watching it, because I was like, I get this. Like, I get that, like, she's coming off like this angsty teen, but she's really like struggling with like her mom and the identity. But I think, and I don't want to get emotional over it, but one of the things I wanted to really ask you about that show, season 2, episode 3 of Ginny and Georgia is they had one of the best episodes to me. The monologue delivered by Brienne Howie, who portrays Georgia Miller, was to me one of the most profound I've ever heard. So can you break down what goes into writing such a heavy scene like the one that was in the car with her and Ginny and Georgia? Because I felt like up until that point, her character was kind of, in some ways, like, those who understood, but To the kid like me, you misunderstand, but I think in that moment it was such a groundbreaking moment where the mother was able to tell the daughter her experience. What's the process in writing? And, did you pull from your own personal life or, obviously you had a different dynamic, but where did that come from with that? Because that was a beaut, that car scene was the one.
That's a great question. And first, I really have to shout out the entire writer's room because the process of writing a TV show is very collaborative, right? And it takes everyone. And I have to give a shout out to the creator of the show, Sarah Lampert, because we are of service. We are servicing her vision, and what she wants to achieve on the show and in any particular episode. So for us, what was really important about that episode or that theme was expressing how Georgia was feeling. And when it gets to the point where the teapot is on the fire and it gets to that point where the boiling point and it starts steaming. So that's the point that we were trying to get her to in that moment, in that episode, so that can, pour out of her. So that we can have a turning point or begin a turning point between her and her relationship with her daughter. Because similar to what you just said, it's like, oh, that's when I first understood my mom to a certain extent, like when she started telling me more about herself. And that's what we needed out of that scene. We needed for Ginny to understand her mom.
Do you have an audio podcast? Are you looking to grow your audience? Partner with Prosper Digital TV, a virtual and full-service video production company. Visit www.prosperdigital.tv or call 718-622-0062 to get started today.
To draw her out of that place of that teen angsty hatred for one's parent. Like, you hate your parent till you understand your parent. So we're trying to get them to that place. And what really resonates for me is the sacrifices my own parents made. You know what I mean? Like, especially as like immigrants, they came to this country and risked their lives and worked their tails off for us.
Right.
So that we can have a better life. Like, I would not be where I'm sitting right now if it wasn't for my parents and the sacrifices that they made. And particularly my mom, if it wasn't for the sacrifices that she made, I would not be sitting in this place. So one has to really, take a moment to understand one's parent outside of the mother-daughter relationship. Like, I need you to understand me as a human being right now.
Yeah.
And I want to take it full circle because I know at the beginning you said a critical part of moving to LA was getting your mother's blessing. But what would you kind of say? I know so many people that grew up in Caribbean households or African households or immigrant households that blessing never comes. And I know I kind of want to give you also a chance to talk about your mentor initiative, Black Boy Right, because so many people have to look for. I mean, my therapist once, she told me, and it really dragged me. She said, Bianca, will you choose yourself even if the people around you never give you permission to? And I remember the short answer was, I was like, no. Like that's kind of just me being like, I feel like so many young people, especially pursuing artistic careers, are waiting on the edge of their seat for a blessing or for an understanding or for some sense of mutuality with their parents that may or may not arrive. And so it's like, you were blessed to get that. I was blessed to get that, but so many people aren't. So I kind of want to connect that to your, like I said, your mentor initiative, but just want to get your thoughts on that too.
No, I think that's a great point. So I think that even if I hadn't gotten my mother's blessing, I still would have gone. And that's what I mean about the fear being your first obstacle. Whatever the excuse might be, whether you're saying it's your parents or your mom or, dad or siblings or whatever your circumstance might be, whatever it is that you're using it as an excuse, you need to put that aside and just take the leap, So that's what I learned for myself. Because even in those earlier years of being in LA, and having no money, like I was making nothing, you know, as a production.
Nothing.
I believe you. Not making a dime. Okay, I think my rent was $500 a month, only because I had 2 other roommates. So we right. So we split the rent, and my paycheck was like $500. So like I was barely scraping by. Like I remember I was on EBT when I first moved to LA. Like I was like, okay, let me go ahead and get this.
No shame.
Yes, California.
None at all, because none at all, because I ate good. Okay, I was eating good and very thankful for the food stamps. So during that time, she would be like, why don't you come back home? Why don't you come back? Like, it doesn't look like it's working out. Like, come back home and like get a job. Like, go, you know, become a nurse. Like, go back to school and become a nurse. And I didn't want to. I believed that like I was going down the right path.
You think that like, I find that, you know, it's really about not letting other people's fears be your fears, because I don't think when a parent, like my dad, halfway through me trying to get a talk show, my dad was just like, go to business school. He was like, go to business school. You went to Columbia, go to business school. I was just like, why? I didn't pay for undergrad. Why would I go to the mountain of debt? But it's really like, it's partially concern, but it's also just like, that's your fears. Like I have my own set of fears, but it's like other people are, you know, just always trying to constantly be like, oh, like, but what if it doesn't? But what if it doesn't?
Yeah, they try to impose their fears onto you, and you can't take that on. First of all, you're already concerned about your own fears, so you can't take theirs on. And so you have to block theirs and jump over yours. And so relating that to the mentorship initiative, I think what I always tell my mentees is that they have to keep going. They have to believe in themselves. You know, focus on the journey. And focus on how much fun you are having, instead of, you know, how hard it might be or how far the dream might feel. Because at the end of the day, it's really just about the journey and having fun during that. So for me, it's just relaying that, you know, you need to be able to jump over your fears to get to where you want to be. But at the same time, as you are heading towards what you want, remember that the enjoyment is in the journey of it and not at arriving at any sort of destination, because the fact of the matter is, once you feel like you've arrived at a destination, there's going to be a next one. And if there isn't a next one, then I mean, you might as well be in the grave at that point if you arrived at your final destination. Right. So I try to impart that to them too. But getting back to, and thank you so much for a great segue into this question, but I have a mentorship initiative. It's called the Black Boy Rights and Black Girl Rights Mentorship Initiative. It's geared towards providing access to up-and-coming writers who are pre-WGA writers, meaning not in the union yet, to find work and to be amplified. And there are so many talented Black writers out there that speak to so many different subcultures, like I was talking about earlier, that have not been explored, and they should be. So I created the program in hopes of creating a pathway for those folks to find work in the business. And we're in our 3rd year. We're getting ready to announce within the next week our 2023 class.
And you got some graduating this weekend. Your 2022 class I've seen is graduating.
Yes. They're graduating. They have their 2022 end of program retreat this weekend, and the 2023 group had their commencement weekend this weekend.
Yes,
big weekend. Apart from like all the writing I have to do and have been doing, it's been a busy weekend, and I'm incredibly proud of the program and all of them.
We're so excited about that. I did get a chance to see that. I was like, okay, yes, another class coming in. That's so exciting. Before we let you go, we wanted to do something we call the final nugget. So the final nugget is just like a couple of questions, and we just need you can just do a 1-word answer. It's like 5 of them. I'm going to quickly go down each of them, and you just give me a quick answer, okay?
Okay. All right.
Okay. So the path to success is paved with
hard work.
Okay. My mind is
clear.
Okay. The writer and showrunner's greatest tool is his
his capacity to take constructive criticism.
Okay, that's a good one. I wish the world was more
understanding.
And tomorrow I will be.
Tomorrow I will be great. Tomorrow I'll be amazing.
So much. This has been so wonderful. Thank you for sharing your nuggets of wisdom. I know I'm carrying them with me into tomorrow and far beyond that. Could you let everyone know where they can support you, follow you, ask you for, a leg up in LA?
Be a mentee.
No, right. Absolutely. To learn more about the mentorship program, you can definitely go to blackboywrites.com. We also have an Instagram at Black Boy Writes Media. And then there's my personal Instagram, which is Black Boy Writes with a period in between each letter. So that's my personal Instagram. And
wow. In between each letter or each word?
Yeah, between each letter.
Okay.
Yeah. So if you search my name on Instagram and you see Black Boy Writes with a period in between each letter, that's me.
Yeah. It has been such a pleasure and an honor, and I feel so proud of you. Honestly, if I can say. So thank you so much for joining us.
Yes. Thank you for listen, the fangirl in me was just very satisfied with this conversation. So
no, thank you. Thank you so much for having me. This was such a great chat. This is a great way to spend my Saturday for sure.
Well, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Well, so thank you everyone for tuning in, and this has been The Nugget.